Are you overwhelmed caring for an aging loved one? Whether you're an adult child, spouse, partner, friend, or a professional caregiver, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to your Silver Lining. Each week, we bring you valuable content to help you provide the best care and support possible, along with tips on how to care for yourself. Your Silver Lining hosts will cover topics such as recognizing when a loved one needs help, advocating for them in the emergency room, managing medications, maintaining fluid and nutritional balance, handling acute and chronic diseases, and much more. And now for the disclaimer. Keep in mind the information you are about to hear should not be misconstrued as medical or legal advice. See the full disclaimer below. And now on to the show with your hosts, Stephanie and Paige.
If something happened to you tomorrow, would anyone know how to care for your aging loved one the way you do today?
Caregivers plan everything for someone else. But what happens if that planner, that caregiver, becomes the emergency themselves? Lisa cared for her mother with dementia for 5 years. She knew every routine, every medication, and behavioral cue, daytime routines, all of that. But when Lisa was rushed to the ER, her sister didn't know where anything was, or any of the routines, any of the medical care needed. So the result was a preventable care crisis. Medical, emotional, logistical, all of that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, I'm Stephanie Cameron, and I'm your nurse care manager. I'm also the owner and founder of Transitions Care Management, a care management company here in the Seattle, Washington area.
Hi, I'm Paige Selden. I'm the operations manager for Transitions Care Management. And like Stephanie was saying, today we are going to be talking about what happens if the caregiver becomes the emergency.
It's going to be a great episode. I'm going to give you a little disclaimer first because we're going to be sharing a lot of information with you here. So the guidance shared in this episode is intended for general information purposes only and should not be construed as comprehensive or an individualized care plan. Every caregiving situation is unique, and legal, financial, and medical considerations may vary significantly depending upon your location, whether by state, province, territory, or country. We strongly recommend consulting with licensed professionals such as care managers, attorneys, and healthcare providers in your area to create a succession plan tailored to your specific needs and circumstances. With that said, let's get started.
Let's do this. So, first question, Stephanie. Most caregivers are so immersed in the needs of their loved one that planning for their own absence doesn't even cross their mind. So what's the real risk if a caregiver doesn't have a backup plan?
It's a really, really common thing, and some of you out there may be experiencing this right now, so this episode's definitely for you. The care recipient may face neglect, hospitalization, and legal limbo. Just to start with, APS may step in, but it can take a few days or weeks for a court-appointed guardian or somebody else to actually step in and provide the care that you've been providing. Your loved one could end up in a temporary shelter, hospital, or with no care at all.
Can you walk us through what happens step by step when a caregiver is hospitalized or dies without a plan in place?
So again, like we said in the disclaimer, it's going to vary in everybody's area, which is why you want to talk to somebody in your area. But as an example, first responders will respond to your crisis, and they'll assess the situation for your loved one and hopefully determine if they need help right away or not. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. They may call APS, who would begin an investigation. If there's no power of attorney or legal document or legal guardian, then the court can be petitioned. A temporary guardian may be assigned. Emergency placement may be arranged, ideally in a licensed care facility and ideally in a timely manner. Hopefully there's not a delay. Now, in under-resourced areas, unfortunately, elders might remain in the home or under informal supervision.
Can you expand on that last point? Because what makes some states safer than other states?
Yeah, so here in a place like Washington State, we've got pretty strong APS systems. But even though we have strong APS systems, they're still overwhelmed. We've worked with them in other capacities over the years. And unless it's a real dire emergency, response time can be slower. But what determines that emergency, right? So if your loved one is presenting well to the paramedics, they may not take them right away. They may just call APS and say, yeah, Martha seemed to be okay. She was dressed well because the caregiver dressed her well. She looked well nourished because you, the caregiver, are taking care of her. But, they don't know if she can manage her medications. Is she safe to ambulate? Can she toilet herself? Is she going to wander in the middle of the night without her caregiver there? They can't assess all of that on a visit when they're concentrating on you or, the other medical emergency. So even in a place with robust APS systems like us, it may not even get to the APS system as an urgent matter, if they don't truly know your loved one. And then to compound that, states like Mississippi, for instance, not to pick on Mississippi, may lack public guardianship programs or infrastructure or have the funding for some of these programs, and be severely understaffed or just not have the resources for these type of situations, which could make that limbo process much more complicated and drawn out. In weaker systems, elders may be left in unsafe conditions with minimal support. Again, the resources are just not there. The systems aren't in place.
And in some areas, like I'm sure rural areas, the services may be patchy. And, so even if a state has more robust services, there might be areas where they don't.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it really
absolutely.
depends, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Going back to the first responders assessing the situation, let's expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. And I touched on it, but it's a great question. It's worth expanding on. We do invite first responders out there to comment. It's not something that we've experienced because by the time we come on board with our practice, we are putting systems in place. We're making sure there's succession plans, right? We're helping caregivers get a support system in place, which is one of the first things that we do. So we typically don't have to deal with this. So we welcome your input. So if there's first responders out there that let us know kind of what your protocols are or what happens when you walk into a home, that would be wonderful. We'd love to hear from you. So a first responder is going to come in either, usually with a team of people. They're coming in if you're in a medical crisis, right? They're going to be concentrating on you. And if they have to take you away, they may ask mom a few questions, but they are likely not going to go through an in-depth evaluation of assessing for all of the ADLs, right? Can this person feed themselves? Can they take their own medications? Can they prepare their own meals? Are they able to dress and undress themselves, get ready for bed? Can they toilet themselves? Are they able to ambulate safely throughout the home? They'll touch on some of these things, and they'll go on, the impression that person is giving. But if they present well, as I'd mentioned before, they may not act quickly to remove them from the home. They might think they're okay until APS can get out. So there's not an easier answer to that. And I think probably in every state, it's going to be different, again, with the APS support. So yeah, it's a tough, without a good succession plan, this can go really badly sideways.
Really quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah.
Oh boy. So what legal documents absolutely need to be in place before a crisis?
Yeah, so a POLST form, which is a bright green form that, at least in Washington State, and a version of this form can be found in all 50 states. You can look for your state at www.polst.org. This would be for your loved one if a crisis happens to them, if you're not there. What are their wishes if their heart were to stop beating, they were to stop breathing? That needs to be in place for medics when they respond to them. So for the person who is taking care of your loved one, without that in place, if your loved one has expressed, I don't want CPR, let me go, and you don't have that form in place, they are going to resuscitate. They're going to do CPR.
And I didn't realize, I just found this out, last week, at work, was that the pulse form is something that the doctor assigns.
Yeah.
So it has to be kind of done in the physician's office. So
Yes.
it's not like you can just download it and start filling stuff out and go, here it is.
Yeah, yeah. And you can download it, but it does need to be signed by the doctor. And really what the pulse form is, let's actually talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So it's more than just, do you want CPR or not CPR? It goes into, if you want intubation, do you want antibiotics? Do you, what are some of the other things? Let's see, intubation, artificial feeding, antibiotics, and then of course CPR. And so you can pick and choose, from each of those things on which you want. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Oh, okay.
But it is specific, and it is a conversation you probably want to have with your healthcare provider. There's some nuances to that they can really go into some detail with. The antibiotic question is a big one. Some people are pretty clear. I don't want CPR and I don't want intubation, but I might want antibiotics if it's something that's going to help me get over a simple infection, right? If it's going to prolong pain and suffering, then no, just let that infection take its course. So there's some subtleties there that you can discuss with your physician. But if you don't have that in place for your loved one, I would ask them about it. So that's an important one. Healthcare power of attorney, absolutely essential. We recommend this no matter what. Run, don't walk. Go out and get that now. And as well as financial power of attorney and advancce directives or living will, which that goes beyond the pulse form. Let's go back to that pulse form for a second. The pulse form is more for paramedics and what's happening now. So when they come into the home, if your loved one has collapsed, they're going to be looking for the pulse form, which should be displayed in a prominent place. And in a caregiver in a home situation should know where those are anyway, and be able to present it as soon as they call 911, have an emergency packet. We cover those in another episode. We'll touch on them today. Let's see. So the difference between the pulse form and the advanced directives, the pulse form is bright green. It's two-sided. It gives very clear instructions for what your loved one wants now and in the moment in an emergency situation. The advanced directives are once they get to the hospital, then the doctors are like, okay, this is how we're going to help make medical decisions based on the advanced directives. Those are a little bit more comprehensive. It's a multi-page document that your attorney can draw up. You can find those online as well, and we'll provide resources for you down below. So those are really, really important documents to have. The financial power of attorney, of course, and then an emergency care plan summary. Kind of touched on that just a second ago, and we'll go into that more. So,
yeah, thank you. That's good. Pulsed form.
Yeah.
Good to know. Let's get specific. What does a well-constructed caregiver succession plan actually include?
So much good stuff. And this is, I'm going to start by saying this is going to sound like a lot. We're giving you a lot of information. Get a notepad out, take notes. We'll provide some resources for you, but you're going to pick and choose what works for you. Don't be overwhelmed. Take the notes, and we'll talk towards the end about what you can focus on first.
I made a template.
Ha! Of course you did.
Because that's what I do.
That is what you do. That's her jam. She is the template goddess.
Yeah. Templatize. Do it.
So we'll have, I don't know if we'll have a template for you by the time the episode posts, but keep coming back and we'll make sure you have it. Your templates are awesome, by the way. So, okay, we're going to start down the list. And let's do this. Let me go through the list briefly, and then let's revisit the list and go into each one in more detail. I think that might bring it together better.
Yeah.
So things like medical information, how you do medication management, daily routines, behavior strategies, a healthcare logbook, legal documents, financial details, contacts, like emergency contacts, physician contacts, vendors and services, and end-of-life wishes. So that's a list to get you started. Let's go back and talk about each one. Medical information would be like your diagnoses of chronic and acute health conditions. And so this is one you want to keep up to date, right? So this is a living organic document, right? So you want to update it. Chronic health conditions, diabetes, congestive heart failure, kidney disease, any of those that require medical management, make sure and have those in there. Allergies, very, very important.
This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a big, and also make note of if the generic version of a medication, it causes the allergy, but the name brand doesn't. So be specific about that.
That's actually a really good point. And I don't know if it would be an allergy at that point, more of a sensitivity, because I think the formulas have to be specific enough that we shouldn't have an all-out allergy from a generic versus a name brand. However, we've come across many, many times in the practice where somebody cannot do a generic. And there's a lot of debate over this. It's like it's the same. Well, it's not, right? It is a certain percentage of difference that is allowable. And some people just can't tolerate.
I guess reaction would be a better word than allergy.
Reaction, sensitivity. Yeah. So that's a really good discernment to have for sure. Good catch.
Only because I read that recently in one of our clients' details.
Yeah.
And I went, what?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah. And with regard to allergies, that's such an important one, because if your loved one goes to the emergency room and maybe it's not their preferred hospital, in our area, there are a number of hospitals in the Seattle area, and ambulances will typically take someone to the closest available. And oftentimes it's their preferred, but if for some reason it's not, they go someplace else and they don't have updated records and they give them an antibiotic they're allergic to, they're really not helping the emergency situation. So keep those allergies updated. Let's see. Medical history, including any surgeries and procedures, description of current health concerns, put as much detail as you can. You're working with doctors and trying to get the blood pressure figured out. She tends to run high. The more notes you can put, the better. I know it sounds like a lot, but it really is helpful. Under medication management, the current list, dosages, administration tips, and refill routines. So that giant calcium or magnesium tablet, mom can't swallow the whole thing, so you can put a note, make sure you either crush it or cut it in half for her. Things like that.
Put it in a little Velveeta.
Ooh.
like you would for your pet.
You could. We usually say applesauce, but I like the idea of Velveeta.
Yeah. Works every time.
Oh, God, what was it? Edgar, one of my dogs used to would only take him in lunch meat. None of the pill packs, none of the anything. It had to be lunch meat. Daily routines. This is a really good one. Lots of detail about daily routines. What time do they wake up? What time do they go to bed? Do they take a nap in the afternoon? Do they like to eat their meals slowly? So don't rush them. Do they like their meat cut up into small little bites? Do they cut it themselves? Do they like a glass of water with their meal, or do they wait to drink something until after? Do they like to watch a certain program at 3:00 in the afternoon? Especially when somebody has some cognitive impairment going, routine can be so important to them. And if you are needing somebody to fill in for you because you can't be there because of a medical emergency or anything else, you want to provide as much of a stable environment for your loved one as you possibly can, because they're already without you at that time, right? So if you can help keep that routine as stable as possible, it's going to be really helpful.
And we've mentioned in other episodes about what your calming techniques are. This is a big deal for people with dementia.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. Yeah. Behaviors. If they start sundowning, if they have sundowning in the afternoon, what are the comfort techniques that you provide? That's going to be really important. So yeah, good thinking on that for sure.
For me, just give me a fidget toy and pop in some Elvis Costello, or put on some Ironside, on TV. I'll watch that.
There you go. Okay, I'm making a note.
Yes, that's right. I'm putting together my emergency plan,
right?
In case you need to take over.
I have to share with you one of mine. So we don't have cognitive impairment in Alzheimer's or dementia in my family, but I've joked with my kids about it, and because I love clothing. We both love
I
clothing.
know. Look how fabulous our skirt is. It's amazing.
Isn't this fun? This is a designer out of New York. His name is Tom Sohung. Hope I didn't butcher the name, but he's one of my favorites. I love his stuff. Paige, you always look amazing. So it's one of the fun things about the podcast is being able to dress up and have fun for the podcast. But
Yeah, because normally I work from home and I have a set of work pajamas. They have a pocket.
if we have any clients that are listening now when they call the office, they're just going to be
they're gonna
picturing you in
picture
work
me
pajamas.
but they're really cute.
So I've told my kids if I ever get dementia, to clean my closet out, right? Just take everything out of the closet and once a week bring in like 4 new outfits, and then I'll just be like, oh my God, you went shopping for me. That's so cool.
I love that.
So we joke about that, but we'll have other episodes where in strategies for dealing with somebody with cognitive impairment, and that actually could be a good one, especially for somebody that maybe that was a focus. So
Yeah.
we do what we can to make their life more enjoyable and fun, and for me, that would be awesome. So
Yeah. For me, shoes. You could do that with shoes. Just
change
shoes.
the shoes, just change the shoes out.
Just shoes.
Yeah. Mom, I bought you new shoes.
Yeah.
I'd be so excited.
Right?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So
Where were we?
where were we?
Daily routines.
We
I think that
digress.
was the
Yeah.
daily routines.
Daily routines, and then behavioral strategies. We talked on that. Under those behavioral strategies, you also want to talk about common triggers. There may be some things that really do make them feel uncomfortable that you just don't think about. Things like interrupting routine, like if you don't turn this particular show on at 3:00 in the afternoon, it can be really upsetting. Helping them finish the jigsaw puzzle. I've seen this before where somebody, I had this one client who loved her jigsaw puzzles. It was really neat. She would sit there for hours and do these. And even as the dementia progressed, this was such a comfort for her. And as the dementia progressed, it became harder and harder for her to do it, but it was no less important. And it took longer. I know, it was really sweet. They always kept her in jigsaw puzzles. And if somebody would try to help her with it, it triggered her.
Oh.
And it was taking her longer, but that wasn't a bad thing, right? So meet them where they are. You'll hear us say that a lot, but it was comforting for her to figure it out, even if it took a long time, even if she never found that last piece. It was still her time, her routine, and it was not okay for a caregiver to help. So, right, you think you're doing something nice, right? We're doing this activity together. So writing those things down is really important too. Keeping a healthcare logbook, including recent symptoms, changes, and the log can help any new caregiver really quickly understand these patterns and next steps. Legal documents, we talked about those, putting those someplace safe. And again, that's your power of attorney documents, advance directives, anything, legalese. If you put it in a safe, leave somebody the combination. Just saying.
Yeah.
Financial details, how care is paid for, access to funds, insurance policy numbers, insurance cards. Contacts, so list for all the medical providers can be in that book as well. Emergency contacts, who to call and in what order. So it could be care managers if you have them on board, family, hospice or palliative providers, whoever you call in what order you'll have on that list.
And don't leave off for the medical providers, make sure you include the pharmacy.
Oh, yeah.
That's
one
of those that people forget about because you're not there every day.
Mm-hmm. Neighbors. So is there a neighbor that you would call? Vendors and services, that's your pharmacy. Any aides, let's say you have a caregiver that comes in once or twice a week, make sure you have that person's information. Any home health agencies, grocery deliver, transportation services, end of life wishes, not just the paperwork, but what conversations have been had. It's a good thing to make note of. and what guidance can you pass on? So lots and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is why it's important to get on this now.
exactly.
Yeah. What other care considerations should be addressed for someone to step in temporarily or permanently?
Yeah, so the location of the important stuff, right? So first and foremost, you're putting all these things together. Where can they find it? Right? So have a designated spot and have that person know where they can look, because they may be coming in. If you've been in crisis, there's higher energy of activity and level of activity. And so when the person comes in, they need to take over quickly. So they need to go exactly know where to go to in the house to get the things that they need to care for your loved one.
Make it as easy on them as possible.
Yeah. Oh, and in the information that you put together in this logbook too, make sure you include the activities of daily living. And these are things like toileting, transfers, assistance in dressing, mobility. Can they feed themselves? Do they prepare their own food? All of these sorts of things, if you have that laid out, is going to be really helpful too for a level of care needed. And then review and update the document regularly. We recommend at least monthly and whenever there's a change. Let's see. Safe accommodations. We talked about that. Oh, security systems. If you have alarms or security codes, make sure and leave those. Wi-Fi passwords. Household quirks. Living room window doesn't open until you tap it 4 times on the left and once on the bottom.
For me, it would be at night, I get owls that land on my roof.
What?
Yeah. And so
That's super cool.
Yeah, it is.
That's
It's
good luck, isn't it?
I don't know, but yeah, it is.
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
If it's not, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. So you can hear them, and so it'll be like a kunk,
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, when everything's really quiet, it can be a little like, what was that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's loud.
I know.
Let's see. Another quirks would be like the back left burner of the stove doesn't work. That would be a good one to know, or a certain outlet doesn't work, or just whatever quirks are important. Pet care routines and vet contacts. That's a good one. Meal preferences and dietary needs, transportation needs or instructions if mobility devices are required. And then any habits or daily routines that support mental and emotional well-being. We touched on that a bit, but also important to include.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So who should be involved in building this plan, and what are their roles?
Yeah. So family and the backup caregivers, build this plan with the person that you want to be your successor or somebody who is going to help you out. If they're involved in the planning, it's not going to be unfamiliar to them, rather than you building an entire plan and then saying, hey, Mary, I put you as my emergency contact. There's a folder in the dresser if anything happens, and have this all be new to them. Having the open communication and talking with them about it is going to make things so much easier. I know that might sound silly, but I've heard of that happening. So yeah.
Yeah.
Elder law attorneys, these are going to be the folks that can draft and validate the legal documents and assist with guardianship if that's going to end up being needed. Medical providers, talk with your doctors about that. They can be really helpful. And then, of course, your loved one. It doesn't matter where they are typically in the aging process, in the disease process. We always let them know that their voice counts, right? We always want to hear what their preferences are. And even as things may progress like dementia, they may not be able to make big decisions about their health care, but they can certainly give input. So as long as they can, encourage that input.
And we've talked about this before with other things, but it does help instill trust, and so they don't feel like something's being plotted behind their back.
Yeah.
So if you keep them in the conversation, keep the dialogue going about it,
Yeah.
they'll feel more included. And
Yeah, absolutely. Who wants to be told what to do?
yeah, nobody.
Yeah. Not me.
That's who.
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah. And what are the most common mistakes a caregiver could make when it comes to succession planning?
Thinking that somebody else will just figure it out.
Wing it.
Wing it. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's true. It's like we're so, as caregivers, especially if you're the sole caregiver and you don't have help, you're overwhelmed. You have a lot on your plate. And so what we're talking about today, I guarantee there's some eyes rolling out there. It's like, oh my God, I don't have time to even take a shower, let alone put this stuff together. And having the feeling of somebody else will figure out is incredibly common if you're overwhelmed. Relying on verbal instructions or informal promises, just telling a neighbor, hey, if something happens, I need you to come over and take care of mom. And the more planning you can do, the better, of course, for the long term.
I think especially around somebody with, kind of cognitive decline, that because their world is shrinking and they rely on those routines, like you said earlier. I'm going to reiterate that.
Yeah.
They rely on routines.
Absolutely. And then, also not to mention that a neighbor might be able to come over and step in for a day or two, but they don't have the legal authority to make those long-term decisions. So they may help until EPS can come in, until somebody else can come in, but you are still going to be dealing with some pretty big, potentially avoidable changes.
Good point.
So, and then not updating documents as situations evolve. So once you start this process and you have these documents for somebody, try and update as often as you can. Typically, like I said, we'll try and do monthly, but whenever there's a health change, so medication changes, insulin amounts get changed, or blood pressure medication gets swapped out for another one, just update your book if you can.
And, we have stated in a few episodes to document different aspects of your loved one's care needs, like medication lists and appointment notes. In care management, we update a client's care log frequently, especially after medication updates, hospital discharges, and, disease progression, behavioral changes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're always in there tweaking it.
We are. And we formalize it because it's what we do. It's our jam. And so we have a lot of systems in place, and I have a whole staff that does it, right? So we understand you're in there doing this on your own. You don't need to get complicated with it. It can be something as simple as getting a good system in place to start with, and then maybe have just a notebook that's dedicated to like a journal, your notes from when you go to doctor's visits or things that happen during the day that are big, that you just kind of jot a note down in this book and then let somebody, go through and read it. You have your main bit of information that we've talked about through here, but then maybe for updates, you have a notebook like the doctor said this, and, the doctor changed medication on this date from this to this. So, anything that you can do.
A running log is really effective.
A running log is great.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
And where can caregivers get help creating these documents for free or low cost?
Yeah, check your local resources. So go to caringinfo.org for one. They have free state-specific healthcare directive forms. I don't think they do financial POA. You can double check on it. And then AARP has an advanced directive toolkit. It's an organization called 5 Wishes. And then we will give you a link for your local legal aid and state bar associations, and they should have some good information for you as well that you can reach out and see if there are free resources available to you. Every state is going to be different.
I love AARP now, but man, 10 years ago when they were like, hey, here, do you want to join? I'm like, what?
I know, right?
But 10 years on, I'm like, yeah.
AARP is cool.
Yeah, right.
It is. It is cool.
It is.
Yeah.
They really are very helpful.
Yeah.
That's,
for sure.
That's good. What is one thing, and this is a big question for you, one thing that a caregiver could do for, towards a succession plan today? That's one thing.
Designate someone as your successor. Make it formal. Get on the phone and call somebody that could step in for you. And if you can assure somebody that you're putting all the documents in place, right, that you're getting a plan in place, that you just need them to step in and help with this, it might be less daunting than we have no plans. I just need you to care for mom if something happens to me.
Wing it.
Wing it. Yeah. Yeah. The more you can put in place and prepare them and realize that they aren't, this isn't going to instantly become a full-time job for them as it is for many of you out there right now, is that a plan that somebody can come in and make sure your loved one is safe, that their needs are met, and that any next step transitions that happen are going to happen as smoothly as possible. So designate that person and get your plans in place. Now, we gave you a lot of information, and hopefully you took a lot of notes. We'll provide some resources for you, but you don't have to do it all today, right? So designate that person, and then a current medication list and allergies and diagnoses are 3 of the most important things that you can put together now. Exactly. And emergency contacts, of course, is a good thing to have. You can put those together pretty quickly. Oh, it looks like we are experiencing some technical difficulties and have lost our camera feed.
Sun flares.
But we're on the very last point.
Yeah.
So that was good timing. So the last thing is, if you've got power of attorney documents already in place, that's great. Good on you. But that would be the next step I would take. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great information. Again, as always, I learned something. So I love to see you doing your thing.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so good at this.
Oh, likewise.
Thanks, buds.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. We were so happy to have you here today. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Hopefully you will see us throughout the whole next episode.
Yeah.
Remember to like, subscribe, and share. We cannot express that one enough. The more word gets out about what we are doing, the more people we can help. So we appreciate you. Give us your comments. We'd love to hear your feedback, and we'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Your Silver Lining. We hope today's discussion was insightful and empowering. Aging isn't just about getting older, it's about embracing the journey and making the most of every stage of life. Through it all, we've got you. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who might benefit. Your support helps us reach more people. Have a topic you'd love us to cover? Send us a message. Let's continue the conversation. Connect with us on social media or visit our website at yoursilverliningpodcast.com. Join us next time as we keep supporting you and caring for your loved ones. Until then, stay positive, be well, and remember, we are your silver lining.